So I wonder how many people listening right now to episode 350 can honestly say they've listened to all 350 episodes. Because I know for a fact, Chrissy, that you can't say that you've listened to all 350 episodes of this podcast.
Oh, you just called me out. And you know what? That's true. And I need to continue and finish all of the episodes. I made it most of the way.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of great conversations to keep up with.
Yeah. Let's welcome everybody out today, though. Like I said, this is episode 350. My name's Chris.
And my name's Chrissy.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the podcast, for subscribing to the podcast, for listening to the podcast.
And as you know, today we are recording out of the Mountain West Hard Cider facilities right here in downtown Salt Lake City. These guys have been amazing, and they're letting us use their conference room to record some of our podcast interviews. You need to stop by and visit them and support them for being such a rad local business. Their address is 425 North, 400 West in Salt Lake City.
Hey guys, if this is your first time listening and you're like, what is this podcast all about? Is it about true crime? Is it about serial killers? This podcast is about Salt Lake City, Utah. We get to talk to musicians, artists, business owners, restaurant owners, food truck owners, bartenders, really anyone that Chrissy and I thinks might have a cool story.
Yeah, like today on the podcast, we get to sit down and chat with entrepreneur and motivational speaker Krystal Guerra. We get to find out her story, what got her into the world of public speaking, and what it was like for her growing up as a minority in Utah, and how she uses her experiences to empower others.
Hey, before we get into that interview, I of course want to give some love to our sponsor for this episode, the very delicious, the very local Five Wives Vodka. We're going to be telling you more about them a little bit later on in the podcast.
And as you know, it is also downtown farmers market season. I look forward to every Saturday. Every week, I'm like, when is it Saturday? When is it Saturday? Because then I get up and go to the downtown farmers market and buy some fresh produce, look at some really cute baby clothes. Sorry, guys, I'm in the baby clothes phase right now. But there are some amazing people who make great stuff there. And it's actually going till October 20th. It's from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at historic Pioneer Park right in the heart of downtown. There's so much cool stuff. There's something for everyone there.
And I want to mention, this episode will be up. If you're listening to this before October 13th, that is the last time that I Am Salt Lake is going to have a booth at the downtown farmers market.
Come visit us.
So come visit us, buy a t-shirt. We got buttons, stickers, the whole 9 yards. Say hello. Chrissy and I love to meet the listeners.
Yeah, and I love high fives and hugs. So please come, say hi.
All right, guys, here's that conversation that we had with Krystal Guerra when she came and sat down with us and got to share her story. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. What did your childhood smell like, Krystal?
Smelled a lot. This is gonna sound a little stereotypical, but I feel like it did smell a lot like tortillas, because my family's from Mexico, and so we always had like really traditional Spanish food in the house growing up. So,
and what did you say it smelled like?
Tortillas.
Tortillas. Oh,
so you got like the real delicious
part.
Tortillas.
Yeah, exactly.
So your parents are from Mexico.
Yep.
You were born and raised here in Utah, though, or where were you born and raised?
Yep. So I was born and raised here in Utah. My siblings and I are all from Utah. Both of my parents are originally from Mexico. My dad is from Jalisco, kind of Guadalajara area, and my mom is from Colima. But they've been here now for probably about 40 years now.
Do you ever get down to Mexico to visit?
Oh, yeah. So growing up, we went out there a lot. Growing up, like different summers, which was awesome. We've got a lot of extended family out there. You know, it's been a while now, but everyone's kind of moved stateside, or the relatives that we do have out there we're not as close to. But it was super fun just getting to experience the culture. The food was always amazing. That was probably my favorite part. And then, like I said, just the culture, seeing, different ways of life. People don't do grocery cart shopping out there.
In Mexico.
Yeah, like where my dad's from. Super, super small town. So it was, you kind of got what you needed for the day. Everything was fresh. Wake up really early, go down to the marketplace. My grandma would give us enough money to get like cheese, tortillas, some bread. And then you just had to haul it back up. Kind of whatever you could carry on your person is what you had. And so it was really different for me to experience going out there for the first time and just seeing like, wow, there's not just accessible cars everywhere. We kind of had a park at the bottom, then we'd walk up. And so that was just where my dad was from, was super small town. Obviously, when you go into some of the bigger cities, it feels very much like being stateside, but it was a unique perspective to kind of not have a landline, not have a washer and dryer, just very like grassroots.
How cool to get that culture young, though.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? I mean, a lot of us don't have that experience, and it's really cool because you can actually appreciate everything.
Oh, yeah.
On both sides, really. I mean,
Definitely.
that actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like it would be really fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. And I think for me, it was great. I was so thankful that my parents kept kind of the culture alive in the home. And they were really big on obviously wanting to help us be successful and kind of adapt to our environment here. But it was just so different than how they were raised. And so I'm glad that they helped us kind of bridge both worlds and let us know a little bit of what their upbringing was like.
Now, do you have a lot of brothers and sisters then, or what's the family life like?
Decent amount. So I would say, I mean, relative to Utah, we probably don't have a lot of kids. There's like, you know, here it's a little bit unique, but there's 4 of us total. So I've got, 2 older brothers and a younger sister. So
hey, that makes for a decent sized family.
Yeah. Oh, that's
you know what I mean?
definitely
4
a decent
kids.
sized
And
family.
I don't know how people do it with 10, 12, 15 kids.
No, my parents joke all the time. My dad's like, okay, part of the reason we stopped having kids was because we couldn't afford more of you.
It's so true, though. I mean,
It gets expensive.
that's not a joke.
No, it's she's like, that's hard facts.
But you grew up on a farm, right? Is that
Yeah.
what I'm understanding? And we're going to find out about your story here,
Oh, yeah.
Krystal. So one thing I like about this podcast is we get to find out about you with our listeners. And so you grew up on a farm. What kind of food were you growing? Like, was it just produce or was it animals?
Yeah,
or-
so just produce. So I grew up down in the Santa Quin Payson area, and my dad's kind of land and everything was always kind of outside of the home, but we grew up my dad kind of left the corporate world, got into full-time farming. It's always been a passion of his. He's very much like fruits of your labor, literally kind of guy. And he missed out from Mexico. I have an aunt that has like a chicken farm back in Mexico. And so he just loved that idea of connecting people with goods. And
very cool.
Yeah. So everything from squash, raspberries, blackberries, corn, like peaches, tomatoes, cherries. So every summer we knew, like my siblings and I would help out. We were on the side of the road selling fruits and vegetables, and that's how everybody back home knows my family. They're like, oh, you guys are the Guerras, like you guys have the best corn.
So how many acres? Like a lot of acres, or was it just like a small garden? Or
Yeah.
talk about it. Like what was the farm like?
So a lot of different acres for sure. One of the things that my dad does is he also works with a lot of old farmers, just because, farming is one of those like long-standing, like one of the first industries, I guess you could say.
It's a dying art.
It's a dying art. It is.
for sure is.
It's a lot of work. And so we were fortunate. I mean, down Santa Quin Payson, there is a lot of land. And so he's worked with a lot of old farmers that were maybe too old to continue, either managing the peach trees or managing the cherry trees. And so he kind of worked out deals where he would kind of help revive all the crops. And so the land was kind of leased on there, and he'd work out some deals that way. But I know this year alone, for example, he planted 50,000 tomato plants.
Wow.
So if
Does
you guys
he have
want tomatoes,
employees? Or is it just like, do you guys just go help him still?
we still help him. So we do the farmer's market.
Do you still get out and help?
I do. Yep. So
Wow.
I do the farmer's market on Saturdays.
And that's the downtown.
That's downtown.
Okay.
Yep. We do Pioneer Park. We do the Spanish Fork Farmers Market. We do Murray Park Farmers Market. I still help out, usually just on Saturdays. But we have booths that are open 6 days a week, and we do have helpers. He actually brings in pickers every year. So anywhere between 5 and 9 pickers that help him with, gathering all that stuff. And then we've got a few family members that help consistently with our stands, like my mom's in on it. So,
And are they just like the stands in random places through the city? I actually did that one summer. I sold corn.
oh, nice.
For a place, because my rest of my family's down in Provo.
Okay, cool.
And I used to live down there, and I found it was in the paper to sell corn. I thought it was the funnest thing, because I'd be in different areas all through Provo and Orem there. Maybe it was for your dad.
It might have been.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
No,
But how fast? So they're still very active, still selling at all the farmers markets.
Yep.
I mean, that's got to be hard work.
It is, yeah. And I mean,
yeah.
he's getting kind of to that age. We give my dad a hard time because we're like, hey, like you're kind of getting older. I mean, it's tough. It's nice because it's very seasonal. I mean, so he is off part of the year here, but when it's on season, it's like you're up irrigating, you're checking on all the crops, you're delivering the goods, and so I'm very lucky that my family is close, and we all kind of grew up with that. My dad's been doing it for like 25 years now. And so it's just become the family business. But at some point it does just get hard to kind of manage as we've grown up and we all have our own jobs and ambitions and passions. And so I'm still happy to help out on Saturdays, but it's tricky.
So when you were a young girl, did you want to be a farmer, or what did you want to be when you grew up?
You know what? Teaching has always been a passion of mine for sure. And I think that was because growing up, there weren't very many Hispanic kids where I was raised. There was a few of us in my elementary school. And so teachers really were kind of my first friends in the sense that they were always super nice to me, willing to kind of understand that my home life was a little bit different.
Sure.
And so teaching has always been a passion of mine. Farming was definitely not in the cards, but it did spark my interest in marketing, which is what I do now. And that came from developing people skills early on, connecting people with products and getting them, pairing them up with like, hey, what do you need these apples for? You're going to bake a pie. Okay, that's different than just eating apples. And so early on, learned about marketing, business, entrepreneurship. So,
do you think?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Do you think, like, working for your dad, did you learn any? Did he let you kind of do the marketing for his stands and kind of develop those skills as a kid?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we would help. We would do a lot of handmade posters for sure. We actually still do a lot of handmade posters, but just seeing the interactions, working, doing some B2B deals. We did have some, third party wholesalers kind of approach us and want to do some reseller relationships. And so pretty much when we were dropped off at our fruit stand for the day, it was like, okay, you've got this.
You're in charge.
This is your business. Yeah, like everything from handling the money to just even giving back change. When I'm at the farmer's market, people are always like, wow, because I count back to people.
And people aren't used to that.
They're not used to that.
Yeah.
Because cashiers, and I cashiered at Target for summer, everyone is so used to just the automated where it spits out and it's like $6.15 is your change, right? And you just kind of get a wad. And I was always used to counting back. And so it throws people off even now when I do it because they're like, oh.
None of us know how to do math anymore.
It's kind of sad. So to kind of fast forward a little bit into kind of some of the current stuff, you mentioned in the email that you sent me that you're the vice president of marketing for a Utah tech company.
Yep.
What's the tech company?
So I work for MarketWare. We're a healthcare software company. So our clients are hospitals, clinics, health systems based all across the U.S. So,
and talk a little bit about what you do for them.
Yep. So I run our marketing team. So everything from, I've got a handful of people, everything from our website to our SEO to our paid search, content marketing, working very closely with sales, bringing new sales into the business. So really all encompassing kind of a marketing manager that way.
And I'm assuming you like marketing, right?
Yes.
Isn't that what you went to school for?
It is. Yep. So I graduated at UVU with a business management degree with a marketing emphasis. So always been fascinated, like I said, by business and just connecting people with products that make their life easier. And technology was one that I happened to kind of fall into and continue to gravitate towards. So as a VP,
it's kind of the new thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the way everything's going.
Exactly. Especially if you're in Utah. I mean, we talk about, silicon slopes, right? And so I kind of accidentally ended up in the software space, software as a service, and then found myself really enjoying it. I still get to do the creative side, working with people, and then just understanding the dynamics of a business.
The reason I was going to say tech company is because, that's kind of the hot thing right now, right? In Salt Lake City. And I know that's one thing that we haven't touched a whole lot on the podcast. We've had a few people, thanks to Chrissy, with her connections, because she's involved in the tech industry as well.
Yeah. And it's just going to get bigger and bigger. I mean, that's why a lot of people are moving here.
Oh, yeah.
And even finding the podcast.
Do you find like people that come and work You say Marketware, right?
Marketware. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know how close you are with all that, but are they a lot of out-of-state people moving here to work there, or what's that? Do you see much of that?
Yeah, we definitely have some out-of-state people, and I think I've just seen it, ongoing in my circles as I kind of network with other VPs of marketing, get to know other CMOs. We are seeing a big influx of people come here, and it's been great. I mean, for me, especially on the diversity side, it's been fun to be able to kind of see a shift in not only cultural diversity, but gender dynamics. That's made a big difference. And so, yeah, tech is huge. And I think it's just kind of the world we live in, where it's just the way things are going. Everything's automation and AI oriented. And so it's been nice that I happen to be able to meld what I love to do, which is marketing, and then be able to layer that with being in the industry of tech.
Very cool. And how long have you been there for?
With Marketware, I've been there. It'll be coming up 4 years, but total in the field, it's been about 8 years now.
Very cool.
Wow. So on top of full-time job, helping your dad with his business,
Yes.
You also have your own business.
I do. Yep. So I run Guerra Media. And that really is a platform dedicated to speaking engagements. I do some marketing consulting as well. But primarily, it really came back to giving me a platform to be able to share my own story of success, not just, the brand that I wear and that I get to be involved with, but particularly working with a lot of business professionals, women in business, minority groups, colleges and universities. So I work with a lot of youth groups as well. Just kind of sharing nuggets that have really helped me get to where I'm at, kind of at an early age, and everything from sharing pitfalls, things to avoid, to, again, just things that have helped kind of accelerate me into my career and catapult me to kind of where I'm at today.
Here's a question, and hopefully this comes out good, but you being Latino, minority here in Utah, I mean, that's tough in Utah.
Yeah.
I moved to Utah. I'm 40 years old. Family moved here when I was about 15, 16 years ago. There were only white people here.
Yep.
And so how was that? And how is it even still?
For sure.
I mean, I apologize.
That's a great question. I love it.
Yeah.
Diversity is kind of a topic here.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is so overly saturated with
I think it is a little bit taboo for people, right? Like, I've had people like, what do you like to be called? Is it Hispanic? Is it Mexican? I'm like, well, Mexican is correct if your parents are from Mexico. That's not an offensive
If you're from
term.
Ecuador.
If you're from Ecuador. Yeah. I was like, that's just what it is. But it was definitely different. And I think for me, having come from a very small town where it was also, everything felt a little bit more intensified because it was kind of a small town, it was hard. And navigating the cultural differences, understanding what my home life was like, and then going to school and then hearing kids' stories and being like, wow, my home is nothing like that. Or we don't eat any of those things. Like, I remember going home and starting to ask my mom for like Eggo waffles and Pop-Tarts. And she was like, okay, but you don't want chilaquiles, like, which is fried tortilla with like eggs and tomato. And
so much better.
Which I know, yeah. And people hear that and they're like, what? You complained about that? Like having steak for breakfast?
But it's just being different. As a kid, you always want to just kind of
blend in.
Yeah, you want to fit in. You want to be able to talk with the other kids about the same things and do the same things.
For sure.
But so many years ago, I mean, especially in Payson, Santaquin, that area, I mean, there probably wasn't very many Hispanic, Latino
there wasn't
people.
For sure. In fact, I remember this is one of my favorite stories to share as, I talk to minority groups and a lot of Latino groups is I remember my teacher once at a parent teacher conference, which I typically interpreted for because my parents also didn't speak English. And so even that dynamic was different. But I remember it was probably first grade. She was like, hey, I'm a little bit concerned about Krystal because when she draws herself, she uses the black crayon. And that was like such a crazy thing, looking back now, I think it's kind of funny because I was like, well, the other kids were using the pink crayon, which was also not accurate. So, logistically there definitely was a little bit of, self-identity and kind of going through that and understanding like, hey, my home life is different. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's just different. And so I was glad that my parents were very kind of supportive of, like I said, keeping culture in the home and helping us feel like we're okay. But there was a lot of that, like kids wouldn't play with me. Spanish on the bus, at some point, they actually told us not to use Spanish on the bus because we were making other
Really?
kids uncomfortable.
People have a hard time even in Spanish in general. I never understood that. Like I'm sorry, but Spanish should be as much of a language here
Oh,
as
it should
English.
totally be. But I get it. I mean, I don't speak Spanish, and everyone on my team at work speaks Spanish except for me. And so they'll sit and have conversations in Spanish, and I'm like, you guys, I don't know what you're saying, but really, that's on me. Like, are you talking about me?
Yeah, that's the first. That's
always the first thought.
That's the first thing. And so I get it. And I think, like I said, for me, when I share that story, it's, it's a little bit of give and take, and it's understanding, both sides of the story. And I was, like I said, I was very grateful that I did have a lot of teachers that were supportive and kind of willing to understand, like, that our home life is a little bit different. Now, I mean, there's a lot more Latinos in the state too, which I think that just helps, is people becoming familiar with the unknown for sure. But yeah, navigating cultural differences, and then in Utah adds another layer, so there's a lot there for sure.
Let's actually take a quick break. We need to tell you about our sponsors of our podcast. And then when we come back, I want to talk more about some of this stuff that we were talking about here, Krystal. So hang tight. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we get to talk about our awesome sponsor, Five Wives Vodka. Hey, listen, I hope by now you all have drank. How would you say that?
Drink. They're all good.
You've consumed some Five Wives vodka. This is the very delicious, the very local. You guys have had them. Next time you go to the state liquor store, pick up a bottle for a gift. Pick some up for the neighbor's barbecue.
You will not regret it.
The next time you go to the local bar. I mean, they got 3 different flavors. All of them are delicious. Chrissy and I are going to talk about them. Tell the listeners about the original flavor, Chrissy.
The original, I got to be honest, it's my favorite because it mixes with everything.
What's your favorite thing to mix it with?
Oh, gosh. You know what? Be honest. That's a hard... Okay. My favorite, because it's easy, is a nice LaCroix, right?
And that's just because you can pop
it open, pour it in. It's delicious. But I think when I'm feeling savory, a nice Bloody Mary.
Savory.
Yeah. So the original Five Wives vodka is made from Utah mountain spring water. It's 100% distilled corn spirit, and it's gluten-free. And the water comes from a spring that is hidden in beautiful Ogden Canyon. It's inaccessible by vehicle, so the water is actually hiked out 5 gallons at a time.
And I don't know how many of you are friends with Timothy Smith on Facebook, but he'll post videos and pictures of him hiking out this water. It's fascinating.
It's so cool to watch.
You feel like, am I going to be drinking some of that water later on this weekend maybe?
I know I will.
Hey, they have the Five Wives Sinful. This is a flavored vodka with a delicious cinnamon taste. And unlike all those other cinnamon products that I'm sure you've had that give you that cinnamon candy taste, Sinful's like a delicious morning cinnamon roll. Only 76 calories per ounce.
That makes me hungry and thirsty. They also have a flavor that's Five Wives Heavenly. It is a flavored vodka with a delicious vanilla taste. Heavenly's rich, buttery vanilla flavor comes through without coating your taste buds with sugar, and this results in more vanilla and less calories.
So listen up, guys. I know we all have our different ways of making a cocktail, making something with Five Wives Vodka. Head on over to our Facebook group. This is the I Am Salt Lake community on Facebook. This is where all of our listeners hang out. You can go there by going to iamsaltlake.com/group. Post your favorite Five Wives vodka recipe. What you like to do with Five Wives vodka. Do you drink it straight? Do you like to mix it with a LaCroix like Chrissy?
Nice LaCroix, boy. What do you... LaCroix boy.
Head on over to iamsaltlake.com/group. And to connect more with Five Wives Vodka, of course, connect with them on Facebook, but you can also find them at fivewivesvodka.com. And of course, many thanks to Five Wives Vodka for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. And let's get back into that interview with Krystal. Thanks for listening. Yeah. Have we talked about Guerra Media?
A little bit.
A little bit. Let's kind of find out a little bit more about it. What you do even.
Yeah.
Or
what's a day like?
Yeah. What's a day like? Or what can you even maybe offer our listeners? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's something that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So Guerra Media, like I said, that really came from. I love storytelling. I went through a phase where I actually wanted to do stand-up comedy.
Really?
And did you ever try it?
So I did take an improv class, and I think if you were to ask a lot of my friends, they'd be like, oh yeah, I could see that, Mm-hmm. And so I loved the art of storytelling, kind of entertaining people. And again, it just comes back to sharing experiences. I either have I feel like just my life in general could be a script in of itself. Like there's so many things that just happen to me. And I'm like, this happens to everybody, right? And they're like, no, that's never happened to me. I'm like, all right, great. So it's just, one of my bits that way. But Guerra Media really came from the need of seeing people that looked and kind of sounded like me doing the things that I was doing. I know that everyone goes into speaking engagements for different reasons. They either love being in front of people or they just love the motivational, inspirational side of things. For me, I just felt an obligation to go back and say, hey guys, you can make it. You can be a good person. You can be very successful. And here's kind of what I've done to get to where I'm at. So less the warm fuzzies and more the process, strategy, tactics of it all.
So you're basically a mentor.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yep.
Like going back and telling kids it's okay.
Yeah.
Because you work with a lot of kids.
I do. Yep. I work with colleges, universities, high school students. There's a big organization here called Latinos in Action that's actually nationwide that was founded here. And they're in high schools all across Utah, all across the country. And they're a pretty big group that's actually growing a lot. And so I've done some leadership workshops for them, working with business professionals. Like I said, a lot of women in business. I talk about negotiating for your salary, what that looks like.
That's huge.
We need that,
especially here.
It's tough being a woman here in Utah. I mean, you guys get treated poorly. Really, I mean, there's probably a better word I could use than poorly.
Well, it is really interesting. I mean, first of all, being a woman. Yeah. Second of all, being Latina. Oh, right. Yeah. That's a huge thing in this culture to be treated as an equal. And I know it probably sounds redundant because I talk about that all the time.
No, yeah.
But it's true.
It's true.
It's a very different culture.
So what are you doing, Krystal, to help out and make it better?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing here?
So I think, I was going to say, I think the first thing is you've got to be in a position of leadership to make change, because change comes from the top down. And so a lot of times as women, we speak to other women, which is great. And we have these women empowerment groups, but it's like you're preaching to the choir. So for me, it's getting involved and putting myself in conversations where it's not just me and a bunch of women, where I'm actually having conversations with my male colleagues, where I'm having conversations with my CEO of, hey, this is actually how I prefer you address me. And this is how, my style of learning. And I had an incident, one of my old bosses where we had a dynamics where we're constantly butting heads, and he was used to working with all male leadership team members. And I remember being in a one-on-one, and I'm very much a processor where I like to write stuff down. I go through each of the points, I think them out, and it takes me a little bit to kind of gather my responses. I remember being in a one-on-one, and he was like, hey, are you listening to me? And I was like, yeah, I'm writing it all down. But it was just kind of my lack of emotional response that he was very used to with a lot of my other colleagues that kind of caught him off guard. So for me, I was like, hey, this is kind of what works for me. This is my style of learning and kind of how I prefer we work together. And so a lot of times it can be very daunting as a woman to have that conversation when someone has a superior title to you. And so, like I said, I share with women like how to break that down. What does that look like? You really train others to treat you how you'd like to be treated. And so having that conversation is important.
You mentioned writing it down. I mean, there's guys that do that too, though. I mean, that's not just a woman thing.
Totally. It's true. But for some reason, people watch you more when you're a woman.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They definitely pay more attention to everything you do and kind of study and analyze you a little bit more than they would a male. I'm not sure why.
You guys make it sound, I feel so bad being a man.
Yeah,
right?
it's all your fault.
Like a white man in Utah. I mean, we have all the privileges.
And that's what's so sad. It's like, there's nothing you can do about that. So it's not
but it is interesting, even down to my tattoos on my arms. I mean, 10 years ago when I had, people saw them, they were like, oh my gosh. I mean, I might as well have been a leper. I might as well have been a gang member.
I hear they're contagious.
Yeah. And but seriously, Utah has changed. And that's why, even really you, growing. The way you grew up here, I mean, gosh.
Yeah.
I could just imagine what it was like for you. Yeah. But I'm
just paving the way for a new generation.
That we're changing here. Now talk about, on Thursday, you're doing an event.
Yes.
This won't unfortunately be up by then. So I apologize. But let's talk boss babes.
Talk about it.
Boss babes. I mean, that sounds
That sounds hot.
Awesome.
Oh, wait.
Am I a boss babe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Totally are.
Boss. Yep. And so we've got Boss Babes Night Out and collaborating with a business partner of mine, Ashley Forsyth. I've known her since college. She's
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, she's huge in the health and fitness space. She owns health and fitness meals. So she's a meal prep company. She does a bunch of other stuff in the community as well. And so for me, obviously, I love hanging around like-minded women. I love empowering other women. And so we had this idea to support local entrepreneurs. We call them fempreneurs, so female entrepreneurs that a lot of times, either for marketing reasons, budget reasons, maybe aren't as mainstream and well-known, as some of these big companies, whether it's a massage therapist, a hairstylist. We've got, teeth whitening. There's a teeth whitening that's owned by a couple of sisters. That's called Celebrity Smiles. And these are all places that either I've personally used or, we've gotten good referrals from other friends. So we're hosting this one-night event. It's not for profit. We're also helping those that do want to get into business or have a business elevate their marketing materials by offering hair makeup artists and photography at a very negotiated discounted rate so they can come and get some professional photo shots done. Because I was shocked at how often I collaborate or work with women and I'm like, hey, send me a headshot for a bio, or I want to post something about you. And we've got a lot of selfies or old family pictures where you can tell they've cropped out their husband,
it's
stuff
hard.
like that.
Photoshop them out. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's weird how that's become kind of mainstream for business nowadays, is that you have to have a headshot. And I think that's relatively new.
Yeah.
So a lot of us are scrambling to figure that out.
I should go get headshots.
I know.
Exactly. Well, and with social media, right, it's become such a referral-based kind of organic marketing, which I'm a huge believer in. I love collaborating with other people. And a lot of times, especially as women, it's like we're so good at being behind the lens and shooting products and being mindful of everyone around us except for ourselves. So I'm like, ladies, let's get you out in front of the camera.
That's way
looking
hard.
your best. Feeling great. There's so much to be said about self-confidence. And, we're going to do it at a negotiated rate. And then you can have these images to either just use for your own social media benefits. I feel like there's so many amazing moms that, do such a great job of family portraits and portraits with the kids. And I'm like, yeah, but do you have any pictures of just you like feeling hot, looking awesome, like feeling great?
What's that?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I think especially women and moms, I mean, they don't pamper themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to find the time,
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tricky. Is this an event that you're going to be doing more often, or is this kind of a one-time thing?
Yep. So we've actually had so much interest. We sold out of our exhibit tables, which was awesome. We're pretty much sold out of the attendee passes. So we're going to do it at least yearly for sure. We're working with so many amazing groups chipped in, either, groups that I have in my network, but we're having an after party at Whitehorse downtown. If you guys have been there at the bar there, it's a really, really great bar there. Manager Carly was awesome. She's doing some specialty drinks. We've got the Boss Babe cocktail, and then we also have a mocktail, which is the Lady Washington, which is named after the first U.S. military ship for Lady Washington that way. So just so much goodness going on. Like I said, we just want to support each other. And I feel like sometimes it's hard to find just girlfriends as you get older too.
Oh, for sure.
Because
It's hard to find boyfriends.
It is hard to find boyfriends.
Yeah.
So what if a guy wanted to come to the Boss Babe event?
You know what? I've actually had a few.
I'm asking for you. I'm just curious.
I'm asking for a friend.
Well, see, so they started a Ladies of UX group just a year or two ago here because there wasn't anything like that. And a bunch of the men in the UX community were like, oh, we want to come too. And so it's called Ladies of UX, but it's really probably more than half men now.
Okay,
and it's like, it's kind of cool because I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to open it up to everybody sometimes.
And here's what I told the guys that were interested. I'm like, you guys get everything else. So
you probably know some really cool networking events though for guys and gals.
refer people to.
And there is for sure. And I think, in the future I'd definitely be open to. And, I talk to a lot of guys about marketing, branding. I get a lot of questions about that. So I give, overall just advice when it comes to marketing. For me, I mean, my perspective as a woman, and somebody asked me, they're like, yeah, when did you get involved in women's empowerment? I'm like, was born a woman, so that's kind of my scope of things.
kind of what happens.
It's kind of what happens,
Yeah.
but I definitely felt like there was a need, and especially for, me being single, being over 30, which is also another layer of complexity
Hard
in
in
Utah.
yeah.
But, I tell people, I'm like, it's okay. Do you focus on becoming the best you can. And then if, that changes, something else changes along the way, that's great too. But I'm just such a big believer in, working from the inside out. I'm also a big believer in that the relationship that you have with yourself really sets the tone with the relationships that you have with everyone else.
How do you keep your spirits up? Some days, you wake up and you're like, gosh, I just don't have it today.
Yeah.
What do you do in those?
So positivity for sure. I'm very, very careful with the energy of people that I keep around me, the books that I'm reading, your guys' podcast, listening to, like I said, different podcasts, and just, reminding myself that if you have a bad day, it's not a bad life. It's a bad day.
You just got to deal with that at the moment, right? Like sometimes, you have a bad 10 minutes and all of a sudden you feel like your
It's so easy to
whole
spiral out of
life
control.
is,
Oh,
do you have a favorite
Yeah.
book? I'm always curious. Or I'm
favorite
putting you on the spot, I guess, right
I
now. And I
know.
could even edit this out if you can't come up with
no
anything.
worries. I don't think I have a favorite book. I'm trying to think. I do really enjoy Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. I think that was one of my early books that I read when it came to, getting a seat at the table, kind of the women's empowerment. She does a really great job as the COO of Facebook. She's really well known, kind of the face of, the C-suite for Fortune 500 companies, women that have really kind of broken through the glass ceiling. And she shares a lot of practical tips and advice for women in the corporate space. So
Yeah, she's really paved the way.
Yeah.
For a lot of us to follow.
she's awesome. I also read some of Mindy Kaling's books. I like her.
Yeah.
She's
The
so
one,
fun from The Office.
The actress. Yeah. Okay. I was like, I know that name. I need to read her book. She's cute.
She's funny.
So what advice would you give somebody, male or female, that's starting out a business or thinking about starting a business? Is there any advice you would give them?
First, just take action. Literally just start doing stuff and you're going to learn along the way. I think that in the world of Instagram and social media being so prominent, it's easy to compare and want to make your profile. People are like, how do I make my profile look like this and look like that? You get caught up in the comparison game, not realizing that you're comparing your chapter 1 to someone's podcast 350. You know what I mean? And so there's differences that way. And the biggest thing is just take action, execute now and figure it out along the way and give yourself a break.
See, and I just tell people rent a fancy house and rent a Lamborghini to take pictures on Instagram.
There you go.
What is your least favorite social media? Do you have a least favorite?
Least favorite Snapchat for sure.
Really?
I don't use it very often. I haven't leveraged it as much from a business standpoint. The video clip, I don't know. I haven't gotten into it. I love what Instagram has done with the stories and the tagging. And I feel like they've really tailored to the business side of things for sure and leveraging some of those things. Snapchat is just one I've never been able to get into. And I have an account because my friends are like, oh, you didn't see my Snap, and so I've popped in on it on occasion, but Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are definitely my 3 go-to.
See, and I loved Snapchat, but then I read an article about how Snapchat, the app, drains your battery. And I was like, well, maybe that's why. And I deleted it. And my phone lasts twice as long.
There you go.
But I loved it.
I know, what a bummer.
That
then I did too. You told me and I'm like, oh, I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm done.
So there's a few questions we always like to kind of find out about the people we bring on the podcast, right?
Sure.
Like we're talking about business, but let's find out a little bit more about you, Krystal.
Yeah.
What are some of your other hobbies and interests besides business and
saving the world?
Saving the world. I mean, what else do you enjoy to do with your free time, if anything?
For sure. Yeah. For me, I think it's very important to stay busy. That's it's nice to take days off, but I think a lot of times when you catch yourself having those downer moments is because you have too much downtime. So I tend to keep on the move. But one of my favorite things is traveling for sure. Huge world traveler. This past May, I was just in Dubai, went back to Paris, went to Egypt, spent some time in Abu Dhabi. I've been to Greece, Thailand, Italy, the Netherlands, Germany. So I love to get out and travel. And I think a lot of that came from not traveling as a kid And so,
you just get out and go. You just kind of throw a dart at the map, right?
A little bit. Yep, for sure. And one of the first businesses I did get involved was actually the travel business. And so it was kind of a luxury travel. So that kind of got my interest into, wow, the world really is big place. And, having come from a small town, I remember hearing about the Colosseum in history books and the Acropolis and hearing about all these places. And I was like, I'm going to go check this out. So really just, started booking flights, making it happen. And I think that has really made a difference for me and understanding other people that aren't like me. I feel like it's made me more aware that, wow, there's so many differences between us, but one thing that I found everywhere I go is kindness.
Now, where is somewhere that you went that you would never go back to? You're like, no way, that was
worst
horrible.
place you've ever been.
Oh my gosh, worst place. You know what? There hasn't been any place that I've been that I think was horrible. I feel like everywhere I've learned a little bit something, but Bangkok was probably one of my least favorites.
Really?
Because it was so hot. Like if hell had a degree, it would be Bangkok.
Okay.
It was just hot, humid, a ton of city. We stayed in Chiang Mai, is where we flew in first. I went with my brother, and that was a little bit more wide open. Got to spend a day being an elephant trainer, bathing elephants, like riding bareback through the jungle.
Did you get to pet a baby elephant?
Oh yeah, I actually got to wrestle with a little baby elephant.
Oh my gosh,
they're actually really strong too.
They look really.
They're
strong.
really strong. He was just like bumping up against me, and I happen to wear white, which there's some colors that I guess they're more sensitive to, who kept wanting to like eat my kimono thing that I had on. So I've got like a video of him like playing, and they're like, he's like, oh, so sorry, he's getting you dirty, and I'm like, it's okay, like it's a baby elephant.
Dude, this is a baby elephant.
I don't really care.
He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Now, where's some place that you just can't wait to get back to? You're just like, oh my gosh, I got to go there again.
So Dubai, I definitely want to go back.
Dubai is lit, from what I've heard.
It's weird because it feels like this super have you seen Black Panther? It feels a little bit just so futuristic.
Really?
Like the whole city is really well mapped out. They've got tons of money. There's stuff out there that's just ridiculous. So they have their own SeaWorld that's opening up soon. They have Ferrari World.
Ferrari World.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
They've got the largest, tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, which is one of the things they're known for. And they've got the largest mall in the world, which we went, and it's got a little over 1,200 stores.
Is it even bigger than the Mall of America in Minnesota?
Yes.
Really? Because I've been there.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've never been there.
You've never been there?
It is the largest. They also and they do stuff that
Why is there so much money there? What?
Oil.
Oil, okay.
Yeah, so Dubai is about 80% tourist driven as well. And then Abu Dhabi, which is only an hour from there, is more resource kind of economical driven. But it just blows your mind at how pretty everything looks. But then they have stuff like they just opened the largest picture frame in the world. And it literally is a gold picture frame on the side of the road that you pass. And I was like, I'm like, oh, it's probably some religious symbol, right? I'm like looking into it. And they're like, oh, no, that's the largest picture frame in the world.
We just wanted a gigantic picture frame.
Yeah.
Do they put pictures in it?
No, it's just the frame. You can go up to the top and look at the view. And the Burj Khalifa, too, is the tallest building in the world. You can go up to the top. And it's just like, I think they like to do stuff just because they can. Yeah. And it's one of those things like, hey, we're just going to add another kind of star to our belt here. But it's really pretty.
For them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really pretty. We went to some of the most amazing mosques out there. I was there during Ramadan, which is also super fascinating to learn about. So Dubai, I would definitely go back to and enjoy.
So you've done all this traveling, but you still live in Salt Lake City.
I still live in Utah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
It is always amazing to me, all these people that,
actually
that see the world, but then
come back.
There must be something cool about Salt Lake City.
There is.
What would you tell somebody who's visiting here? For say they've never been to Salt Lake City. I asked this on the podcast. What would you say? Hey, go check this out.
One of my favorite things, I'm not a huge outdoors person. I just didn't really grow up that way, but I've gotten, better obviously being from here. I am still fascinated by Timpanogos Caves.
Sure.
It's a national monument. It's open on Sundays, which is also rare for a lot of other places. So I tell people if you're visiting,
the one place you can go on a Sunday.
You can go on a Sunday. It's the view. I mean, you get a good workout in, right? But the view is amazing. And then I think the caves are actually astonishing. One of the things about America that has been very different is stuff here isn't very old. Is you go to these other places, you go to Italy, you go to Greece, and it's like Jesus sat on this bench. Yeah. And it's like the time frame of stuff is so old. And here we talk about, I have friends that are
like 200 years behind us.
And even I have friends that are like, oh, that house is 20 years old. Like,
you're like, I sat on this bench when I was 10.
Yeah. And it's like, we have the avenues here, right? And that's old. But you go to these other places and there's these like little bake shops and they've been there for hundreds of years and they've been in someone's family for hundreds of years. And you go to Greece and it's like, this marble statue has been here for thousands of years. And I went to Stonehenge, and
oh man, that's so cool.
It like blows your mind that stuff is that old.
Right.
Like I can't even imagine. And so I think, the caves here, that's one of the things that I appreciate.
There's some history there.
There's some history there.
Yeah.
What about favorite local eating spots? Do you have like one or two at least that you're just like, I love this?
Favorite local? I'm just a foodie in general. I love eating everywhere. So I've been to a lot of nice places. I've been to, like I said, Ava's Small Plate Diners is nice. Been to Tin Angel. I don't have a favorite spot though. I have favorite food groups.
What about authentic? What, in your opinion, what's a good authentic Mexican
place? I actually really like Red Iguana.
Okay, I was like, please say Red Iguana.
Yeah, I love Red Iguana. They do a really good job, and it's usually like the hole in wall places, right? Yeah. I have favorite food groups though. I'm a big I love barbecue. Like I love R&R.
Okay, I was wondering R&R patch. Usually people run one or the other.
Right? I do like R&R. Like I love a good pulled pork sandwich, and then I also really like pancakes. So I like Penny Ann's Cafe.
Okay.
Pancake House is great. There's Park Cafe.
Yeah.
So breakfast foods and like pulled pork are like my go-tos. So
what would you change? Would you change anything about Salt Lake City if you could, or do you like it the way it is?
I think the nightlife, we could definitely use a little bit more help there. There's not as many like great bar lounges. And I think a lot of that also just comes from the single scene. And so having people that are in that 30 to 37 kind of range that are young professionals, not necessarily, looking to settle down or get married, but are just, kind of living their own life that way. So I think our nightlife could use a little bit more help in stuff either staying open later, the types of acts that we attract. I know a lot of big names kind of tend to stay away from Utah because they're worried about not drawing the same crowds and stuff like that. So.
What do you like big acts?
Like artists.
I was going to say, we get musicians and stuff, I guess.
We do get some.
And then now with Eccles Theater, seems like they're getting some people.
There's probably some of that.
A lot of times you'll watch someone who you really want to see, like a comedian or even a podcast, a live podcast, or, and they'll just be like,
the closest they get is like Vegas, right?
True.
So I've done like Vegas, LA, Colorado. We kind of get some of the surrounding states that way. Yeah. But, I think letting people know you can have fun here. It's a little bit different, but some of the bar lounge scenes, when I go to Colorado or I've been to Scottsdale in Arizona, they have just these great like open bar atmospheres where it's a little bit of a club, but it's like open patio. They do a lot of great patio places. I lived in Sugar House, and Sugar House has definitely done a really good job of, 21st kind of adding Wasatch Brewery. Yeah. A lot of fun places there. They've got that pizza place, or flatbread place that's like on the corner. So I think just more of that as people move into the state will keep people.
Have you been to the Campfire Lounge there on 2100?
I've been there only because I
want to go there.
I have a dog, and so that's the other big thing too is like places that are dog friendly. And when I was in Colorado, I go out there quite a bit. I've got some really, really good friends there. It's super common to find like dog friendly places. Yeah. All the time. They've got patios. They'll set out bowls for them. And so we've got some places that are like that here, but not quite as open.
I think Utah's traditionally been more family oriented and family friendly. And with the kind of new surge of the tech industry and people leaving like San Francisco because of prices and coming here from New York, I think that I'm hopeful that that's actually going to grow, and that, even like the dog friendly places will be
little
more
things like that.
Yeah. There's little changes that'll kind of get us moving towards that direction.
Yep. It's interesting. You say family friendly, and
I know.
No. But what's interesting is it's like people think people with families just stay indoors all night. Like they got to get out and do something
Guess
too.
what? We're still people too.
But that's what I don't understand. Like people, I find that most people with families, they move way out to like Harriman or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they just don't do anything.
Yeah.
They just stay in their big houses and drive their big trucks.
Yeah.
It's true.
There you go.
We're going to get some negative reviews on the big truck comment.
And their big trucks are really nice, and we like them, right?
Are you a winter person? Are you excited with winter coming up?
I like fall. I definitely like fall. I like the cozy sweater weather. I'm a coffee drinker year round, so I can't say that that's like my excuse, but I do like the cooler days. Winter, as far as like the snow, I actually bought a house this year, so I have a garage, so I'm probably not as worried about winter, but that's one of my least favorite things is like warming up the car, digging it out of the snow,
Yeah.
I just don't like
defrosting
being
everything.
cold,
Yeah.
you know, and then the dark at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I like winter sometimes when I can be indoors and looking outside at the snow and have a blanket and a cup of coffee and a movie.
See, I like
perfect.
I like winter when it's not on the roads. That's it.
Yeah.
Like if it's in the mountains, off to the sides, but it's just like the driving in it. I feel confident driving in it. I worry about everybody else.
Yeah. Because everybody from California, right? They don't know how to drive because they've never dealt with winter.
It's true.
Now, how can our listeners, as we kind of wrap this up here today, Krystal, how can listeners get a hold of you or what? Tell the listeners how they can reach out to you if they want to work with you.
I'll be at the farmers market on Saturday. No, so you guys
You
can.
will.
Yeah, I will be.
Yeah. Stop by the booth.
So people see me at the booth and they're always like,
where's it located at
So
approximately?
we're actually right across from Tony Caputo's. My dad's name is Antonio. He goes by Tony. So we're like Tony's and Tony's. So we're on that side, like straight across from Tony Caputo's market.
Okay, very cool. So they can stop by and get some
can literally
produce.
come by.
What's hot right now in produce?
So we've got peaches. That's probably the big thing that everyone's kind of excited about, especially as we get into fall. It's canning season. So peaches, tomatoes, our melons are awesome too.
Yeah.
So there's so many good things, and we're friends with our neighbors, which is fun. We all get to barter and trade stuff. So every week I end up with like soap and eggs.
Sure.
The necessities in life. But outside of that, you can find me krystalguerra.com. I've got all my social media links are on there. You can see a little bit more about what, the groups that I speak with, the things that I speak on, and then connect with me on Instagram. I'm not one of those people that's like, if you send me a DM or a message, like I genuinely love hearing back from people, giving advice and kind of seeing how I can help or collaborate in the future.
Very cool. Well, I've had a heck of a time chatting with you and getting to know you and finding out your story. I can't, I always tell people let's catch up, but I'm serious. It'd be fun to bring you back through here. And was there anything else that we didn't talk about, Krystal, while we're going here with the microphones? I know that it's hard to consolidate everything in such a short time.
For sure. So many good things.
Was there anything you wanted to promote? Or I know you're doing the thing on Thursday.
Yes. Nothing in particular. Like I said, outside of, if you have a corporate event coming up, if you're a women in business group, I would love to, come and network and speak to you guys' group. And again, share some real advice. And that's one of the things that I always joke with people about is that, I get very real, very intimate with stuff that has worked for me, that hasn't worked for me. I love kind of peeling back the layers and really understanding what drives people and how we can kind of help bring that more to the surface. So that's
that
really
authenticity.
Yeah.
Like that's rare because people want to always pretend everything is peachy keen.
Oh yeah.
And like everything's worked out really well. So I think that's really a positive thing that you bring. Before we go, can you share one piece of life advice with our listeners?
One piece of life advice, I'd probably say just don't take life too seriously, for sure. The things that happen, like said in a day, I always think long term. I'm 31 and I feel like I'm just getting started. And there's so many people that worry that they're not at a certain age, or, they haven't accomplished this or that, or, they're not married, or, this hasn't quite happened. And for me, it's like, just enjoy the journey, enjoy the wins along the way. And you might find yourself on a completely different path and find out that you're so much happier there.
I'm almost 41 and I don't have it figured out. You
guys, he looks great for 41.
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy.
Fountain of youth.
Well, thank you so much for coming and doing the podcast, Krystal.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Many thanks again to Krystal Guerra for joining us on this episode of the podcast and sharing her story. You can head on over to our website at iamsaltlake.com/350 for all the links for Krystal and how to get in touch with her and find out more about what she does.
Hey, while you're on the website, on that IamSaltLake.com website, hit that shop tab up top. That is where you can purchase your very own I Am Salt Lake t-shirt. This is a great way to support the podcast. We got them available in green, gray, and yellow. They all look great. I'm actually wearing the green one right now, and they are so ridiculously buttery soft. Let's get these shirts sold. Maybe we'll bring some hoodies and hats and all that good stuff right there in the shop.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much to our amazing sponsors for this episode, Five Wives Vodka.
All right, Chrissy, let's run down the list on how our listeners can get in touch with us, how they can connect with us.
Absolutely. You can visit us at our website at IamSaltLake.com.
You can also support us on our Patreon at patreon.com/IamSaltLake.
Or you can send us an email at hello@IamSaltLake.com.
And guess what, guys? We finally got a P.O. box. I know we've chatted with it on a few episodes. This is where you can send us presents. Well, maybe
presents.
Maybe a present. Maybe,
I wouldn't mind.
Just fill that mailbox up, right?
Cookies. I like cookies.
P.O. Box 4412. That's Salt Lake City, Utah, 84110. You guys have a great week. Make sure to get out and enjoy the city, support local, and we'll see you on the next episode.
And good night, Grammy.